Hello and welcome back to the OTB channel. Most of the distro reviews that I've done over the last 18 months or so have been general distros for desktop use. But what I've neglected, I've come to realise, is those that are targeted at more specific interests. So last week I looked at Parrot, which had a security focus. This week, I'm going to look at Ubuntu Studio, which is squarely targeted at those people who are interested in multimedia. And at the end of the day, isn't that most of us these days? See you after the intro. Okay, welcome back. You'll see the rude boy hat has been given an outing today just for a change. And I thought as we were doing something that is very closely related to audio professionals, or the sort of operating system an audio professional would use, my little nod to that is to wear the rude boy hat, as I lived in Coventry for over 20 years, and of course that was the birthplace of two-tone. So, but enough of that. Hope you all enjoyed, by the way, the live stream last night, for those of you who caught it. And you'll have seen that I'm constantly working on this cabin. It started off looking like a plain box with just cream emulsioned walls, and it was quite cold to work in. It felt very cold, and I'm building up the lighting, and I'm not using it right yet, I know that, but with soft boxes and all sorts of things, and we'll get there. But anyway, let's talk about Ubuntu Studio. It's an official flavour of Ubuntu. It wasn't initially, but it now is, and I'm not quite sure why I haven't looked at it before, because certainly over the last 18 months I've become very interested in graphics and video production, and I touch on sound editing and playing around. So in many ways it would seem to be a distro that would appeal to me, but it's almost just passed me by. So I thought, I was looking through the other day, and I thought, do you know, I've never looked at this. And I think we have a tendency when we look at distros to look at the generic distros, those that are just targeted at your average desktop user who's given the choice to install whatever they want on top. And you'll get a few basics, you'll get a media player, you'll get a web browser, you'll get an email client, maybe something like the GIMP. You know how it goes. But when you come to the specialisms, last week we looked at Parrot, and there's certainly a place for the likes of Parrot, because there are hundreds of different applications that security-orientated people might use, and it's really, really useful to have them all in one place. And that's really how I see Ubuntu Studio. There are so many applications that people who are interested in multimedia creatives, if you like, so many applications that to actually install them all yourself on a standard distro, for instance, a standard Ubuntu distro, in this case, would perhaps take a while. There's also a case that you may not even know about them. So having everything brought together in a single distro is great. It's like a Swiss Army knife for multimedia people. I'm not going to say multimedia professionals, because not everybody who's interested in multimedia is a professional. I'm certainly not. But I've never heard of most of the applications on Ubuntu Studio. I've heard of some of them, but I have to say, it looks an interesting distro. So let's go across to the combined screen and have a quick look at the Ubuntu Studio website. So here we go. It's a nice looking website. you have to say right from the word go. And I suppose I shouldn't be surprised. It's a distro that's focused on people who are interested in multimedia and graphics, and you would expect them to be leveraging some of those artistic skills on the website. And right away, I can see there's 2 downloads here. There's one based on the long-term support release of Ubuntu 2004, and that apparently uses XFCE. And there's another one which is an interim release based on 2010, Groovy Grilla. I love their names. And that's actually swapped over from XFCE to Plasma. So your choice of what you're going to use may well be dictated by which desktop environment you're perhaps interested in. Now, one of the key things about Ubuntu Studio is it provides a simple way to configure jack audio. Now, jack audio is all about connecting multiple devices and getting them to talk to each other, and doing it within a low latency environment where, and I don't know if I'm getting this right, where the gap, if you like, between the input of the sound and the output into an application or whatever else you're using is kept to an absolute minimum. And that's what this distro is all about at its heart. And if I just scroll down here, you can see that it focuses on audio, it focuses on graphics, it focuses on video, it focuses on publishing and photography. In fact, it brings the whole of the multimedia gamut, if you like, together into one distro, and includes the best of class of the various applications that you may want to use. I've never used jack audio, so I went onto the jack site, which you should see here. And if I go onto the FAQ, I was trying to find what's the difference between, pulse audio and jack. And I think this made more sense to me, these couple of sentences, than anything else. Pulse audio is focused on desktop and mobile audio needs. It doesn't try to address low latency usage, i.e. that gap, but does provide seamless device switching, network routing, etc., and lots more great stuff. Jack, though, is focused on the needs of pro audio and music creation users. It offers the lowest possible latency, complete routing flexibility between applications and hardware, and all audio is always sample synchronized. So apps don't run ahead or behind others. So it brings everything together into one synchronized whole. Obviously something that's going to be absolutely essential if you're producing music. So I thought that was pretty good, actually. So if I go on further to look at the features of Ubuntu Studio, so Jack is the big part of it, and it provides its own control center, apparently, called Ubuntu Studio Controls, where you can actually control Jack. Low latency, less than 5 milliseconds with the right hardware. Obviously, your hardware has to be supported by Jack, and I believe Jack supports any hardware that's supported by ALSA. It includes Ardor, which is a DAW, a digital audio workstation. I should probably use a DAW after I've recorded my videos to play about with the audio. It's not one of my skill sets. I've tried Audacity and I end up making things sound worse. So I've ended up taking an online approach, euphonic.com, and letting them do it all for me. But I think I should probably get into Ardor because it's an incredibly powerful piece of software. Carla, a virtual audio rack and patch bay. Hey, you'll know what it's about rather than me. A range of sequencers and synthesizers, virtual guitar amps, and audio programming. Right, okay, so for audio files, this is clearly the distro. We've also got graphics applications, including Blender and Inkscape, and of course the GIMP, and Pico Pixel, an easy-to-use application for drawing and editing pixel art. I might have a play with that later. That looks interesting. Publishing, Calibra and Scribus, and of course LibreOffice installed by default. Photography, Darktable, Shotwell. I mean, these are just the main ones. And in video, of course, we do have OBS installed by default. It also mentions OpenShot, but I believe Kdenlive is on there as well. And of course, FFmpeg. So, lots to look at. It's a specialised distro for people interested in multimedia. But as I said in the intro, to an extent, that's most of us these days. So let's have a look at it and see what we think. So you should see in front of you now the login screen from Ubuntu Studio. I haven't gone through the install on this video because it's a next process. You know how Ubuntu installs, and it's fairly straightforward. The only thing that I had to do on reboot here was install the guest editions because it didn't boot in full HD, but that was pretty straightforward. And it looks to me like we have Light DM and probably a customized version of the Slick Greeter. Up here in the top right hand corner, we obviously have the time, a little picture of a man, which lets us select a large font, high contrast, or even an on-screen keyboard. We can choose from a variety of versions of English, and we can choose the Ubuntu Studio session or a plain XFCE session. So let's log in and see where we get to. The only thing, oops, and it helps if I can get it to capture my mouse. So just bear with me 1 second. The only thing that I've actually done on this system, I haven't updated it, I haven't done anything with it. I've simply installed HTOP. So let's see how it does right from the word go when we first boot. And it's showing 543 megs of RAM, which is pretty heavy for XFCE, I have to say. But let's not forget this is running in a virtual machine, and it's not as if it's a vanilla version of XFCE. This has got everything but the kitchen sink included. And if I just close that, I have to say that I quite like the wallpaper that greets you. It's nice not to see that browny, orangey, purpley hue that you tend to get with a lot of the Ubuntu versions. And of course, this is an official flavour. It's very smart. XFCE, well, it's one of my favourite desktops. I've installed the 20.04 version because it's long-term support. And I've taken the view, really, that anybody who's going to use this is going to want a stable system because it's going to be used as a workstation. So they are less likely to install the interim releases. Although I should say the latest release, 2010, comes with Plasma rather than XFCE. So pick your poison. So let's just very briefly have a quick look here. Let's have a look at desktop settings. And we have, if I just expand that out, we have a selection of wallpapers. Nothing spectacular, but I would assume people who are media professionals know how to get their own, so we can swap and change. Oh, that's a bit in your face for me, but we have some more subtle ones. Yeah, that looks quite nice. Yeah, I quite like that. But do you know what? Let's just see if we can find that original one. I actually think I prefer the default wallpaper on this. It's quite nice. Let's have a quick look through the menu to see how it's organised. On favourites, there's a sensible choice there. We have a web browser, we have a file manager. I take it the file manager is just going to be the standard Thunar, and yes, it is. In terms of the browser, I know it's going to be Firefox. We have something called Kala, which is an audio plugin host. We have the standard XFCE settings manager here. And let's have a look at appearance here. So we've got the Materia theme installed and activated by default, but we've got quite a few other choices. So Bluebird, okay, Greybird. I suppose I should open up a file manager so we can see the difference. I quite like that dark theme, actually. Materia Dark. That's quite nice as well. Anyway, you can play. I'm going to put it back to the default now, which is a lighter theme. Personally, I'd change it to the darker theme. Actually, I don't know what those icons are. Let me have a quick look. Actually, I need to go back to the control panel here, I think, the settings manager, and have a look at appearance. And we'll get there. What icons is it using? Oh, right. I thought it might be Papyrus, but extra icons only Studio uses. And they have a dark version of that as well. Okay. Fine. So let's have a quick look at the menu and see what is installed. Now, last week, as you know, I went through a review of a security distro, Parrot, and that was like a Swiss Army knife of tools that you would need if you were a security professional. This is similar in a sense in that it's targeted for professionals who work in the media industry or who are not necessarily professionals, but just people who are really interested in audio, video, graphics production, etc., etc. Let's increase the size of this menu. I think this is just the whisker menu, isn't it? Yes, it is the whisker menu, so let's just go back to where we were and have a look. And we start with audio production. And we have there Ubuntu Studio controls. And I believe this is sort of the core control panel for Ubuntu Studio, where you get to set your CPU governor and then go into all the various settings for setting up jack audio, which I believe is quite tricky to set up. I've never done it, so I'm not in a position really to comment, but they provide a nice control panel, which should be, for those who know about jack audio, should be fairly straightforward to configure. So master settings, extra devices, pulse audio, bridging, right. If you know about this stuff, it'll make sense to you. It doesn't make sense to me simply because I'm not really an audiophile. But what do we have there? We have ARDA 5, which is a great digital audio workshop for, managing your audio and doing post-production work. I tend not to do that. I should get into it, actually, and I believe Ardor is pretty amazing. We've got Audacity, of course, Brasero there in the middle, the Drum Gizmo drum kit editor, a sound font playing software synthesizer, Hydrogen for creating drum sequences, LMMS did I say too many M's there? LMMS, that's right. A music sequencer and synthesizer. Create, play and print sheet music. A sound sampler. You get the idea. It has got an awful lot of audio-specific applications here. And up here, we also have kind of menus that open up and show us even more. Something called Kala Control, which is an audio plugin host. Kid 3, edit audio file metadata. And KJack CTL, a jack audio connection kit. You get the idea. Then we have a whole section on effects, which seems to be plugins, Guitarix, a simple mono amplifier simulation, jamming, so that's Jack Audio. Yeah, so lots of things there. Instruments, you can see the things there. I'm not going to read them all out because I'm probably going to mess up the pronunciation. MIDI utilities, including a Jack virtual keyboard. Wow. So if you're an audiophile, this is going to be a great distro. It really is. And mixers and card controls. It's everything but the kitchen sink, isn't it? And if you're an audiophile, I mean, Linux never used to be thought of as a great operating system for sound enthusiasts and audio enthusiasts, but I think that's changed. We've got so many great programs. I read about them all the time. And rather than having to go out there, if you want all these things, and install them yourself and build up a distro, what Ubuntu Studio does is it gives you these out of the box. So that's audio production. We then get into graphic design, and I quite like the way the menu is split into audio production, graphic design, and video production. So on graphic design, we have graphics utilities, so a document scanner and image magic, photography. Okay, so we've got Darktable there, raw therapy, rapid photo downloader, Blender installed out of the box, an ebook viewer, an outline font editor, the GIMP, of course, a color picker, Inkscape, great program, Inkscape. I'm only just starting to get into Inkscape. I've not really played much with scalable graphics, but I recently had to edit one, and so I opened up Inkscape and started teaching myself a little bit about it, and I'm very impressed. Critter, LibreOffice Draw, LRF viewer, a viewer for LRF files, which are apparently the Sony ebook format. Okay, MyPaint, PicoPixel, so a pixel art image editor. That sounds great. Scribus, which is a publisher package, and Synfig Studio, create and edit 2D animations and compositions. Some of these, in fact, most of these, I've never heard of, but if you're into graphics, if you're into audio, you've obviously got the world here. Something that I'm a little bit more au fait with is, of course, video production, and we've got Blender appearing here as well. DVD, oh yeah, I used DVD years ago to create playable DVDs from the computer. Haven't seen that for a long time, but great, good to see. MV24, a mixer and GUI control utility for NV24 based sound cards. I'm not surprised to see Kdenlive here. In fact, in terms of video editors, we've got Kdenlive and OpenShot. I'm a little bit the video editor that I use all the time. Shotcut isn't there. I am still using Shotcut, and I found it to be great. Not that there's anything wrong with OpenShot, and not that there's anything wrong with Kdenlive if you've got the hardware that can drive it. I unfortunately didn't. If you watch that video that I did on Kdenlive, and I had to move to an alternative, and Shotcut is a great alternative. Pativi, however you pronounce that, which is, I believe, almost like Kdenlive, but for the GNOME desktop. Slow-mo UI for slow motion video. Not seen that before, but may have a look at it. A subtitle editor. Voco screen. I keep seeing this Voco screen. So screencasting software. And then we've got CD burning an application there, XF Burn. And a simple video player that gets sync from Jack. Everything's about Jack, really, on Ubuntu Studio. This is what professionals want. Then we move into accessories, and I'm presuming I'm just going to see the standard stuff here. Yes, I am. Education, we've got LibreOffice Math. We've got a few games there. We've got the Firefox web browser and KDE Connect for your Android devices. Pigeon Internet Messenger, I've not seen that for a long time. And Thunderbird and Transmission. So that's a sensible selection of programs. Media Playback, Parole, VLC, and XJdio. Right, so this is if you want to take it from Jack. We've got the full LibreOffice suite there, and then we're back into our settings and our system. And some links there to Ask Ubuntu. Ubuntu Studio Help, Ubuntu Studio IRC. That's really quite nice. And the Ubuntu Studio website, so presumably if I launch that, it will open up a web browser and off we will go. And it looks like that's exactly what it's doing. I'm a fan of blue, I really quite like blue. And so the blue theme of this, I really like. I'm quite impressed at the moment. I won't pretend that I know about all the different audio applications there, but I think it's a cracking idea to have a distro that bundles all the apps that you might need if you are a multimedia professional or enthusiast. I have to say, I'm quite surprised that I've not tried this out before, and I perhaps should have done. Just out of interest, I'm going to, I forget where OBS is. There's OBS. I want to see what version of OBS we have here. Yeah, I don't want to run anything yet. So what version of OBS are we? So we're running version 25. That's great. Just out of interest. Yeah, this is the one before we got the browser source in by default. But for Ubuntu-based distros, the browser source is relatively straightforward to add in. So, guys, that's all I'm going to look at for this. Let's go chat. So that's Ubuntu Studio. I'm quite impressed. I think you can tell. I'm not one to just say every distro is wonderful, because I don't think every distro is wonderful. I think some are better than others. And I think this one definitely has a use case. Certainly there's a use case for people who are interested in multimedia, whether that be audio, video, graphics, or whatever. And I think a big use case is the fact that people who are interested in those sort of things aren't always aware of the range of software that's available in the free and open source world. And this showcases them, really, and gives you a chance to have a play and learn new things. As far as a standard distro is concerned, I like the look and feel of it. If I wasn't interested in multimedia, would I install it? No, probably not. Of course I wouldn't. It's only going to be of interest to those people who have a specific interest, although the look and feel of the distro, I think it looks great. It appeals to my sense of how a distro should look. The fact that it's blue also helps. So, guys, I'm going to keep this quite brief today. Thank you so much for watching the video. I do hope you enjoy it. I'm going to keep trying new things and, keeping it interesting, because I know it can become a little bit staid just going from one review to another, and they're all much the same. So I try and mix and match by looking at a range of different distros that offer something new. What I would like to say is please come and join us on Facebook. Please come and watch me on Library. Also, if you'd like to support the channel, feel free to join my Patreon. And at this stage, I'd like to thank my current patrons whose support has really helped get this cabin up to the point where it's got to at the moment. So that's Devon, Corbinian, Robert, Gary, Aristoteles, Stormpick, Stephen, Mike Long, David, Entropy UK, Richard, Ty, Philip Espy, Forest Rhodes, Scott Russell, and Patrick. My goodness, there's a growing band there, and the support is so much appreciated, guys. As for everybody else, I mean, have a great weekend. It's Sunday. I've got a long weekend planned. I'm off tomorrow, so I intend to make the most of tomorrow to have a rest and study the inside of my eyelids for as many hours as possible. Cheers, guys. That's it for today.